My brother, wearing my tuxedo, married the love of my life. My parents and my sister all called, urging me to come to the wedding. But they couldn't reach me because I was on the rooftop of the very church where they were getting married, live streaming my own death to the world. The pastor was in the middle of the vows, about to pronounce them husband and wife, when the church doors burst open. Chloe's assistant rushed in, her face a mask of terror. "Ms. Bennett, something's wrong. Mr. Anderson is on the roof, and he's live streaming his suicide." The color drained from everyone's faces as they shakily pulled out their phones. Up on the church rooftop, I sat on the very edge of the ledge, my feet dangling in the cold wind. I hadn't felt this light in a long time. I suppose when you're about to die, you let go of everything. With no attachments, there's no more pain, no more sadness. The comments on the screen were more vicious than ever. "If you're gonna do it, just get on with it. Don't let us down. If this is a prank, you're going to hell anyway. LOL, I'm dying of laughter. Stop scaring him, guys. He doesn't have the guts." I numbly swiped past comment after comment until I saw the accounts of my parents, my sister, and Chloe all scrambling to join the stream. Only then did I slowly look up, as if I were speaking directly to them through the screen. "Mom, Dad, why did you abandon me at my graduation to be with Leo? I wanted someone to bring me flowers, too. I wanted someone to take pictures with me. I'm allergic to shellfish and I love pot roast. Why did you stop making it for me? I wasn't the one who broke the vase. I never bullied anyone at school. I don't have a spoiled brat attitude, and I don't spend money like water. Why do you always believe Leo and never me? Why do you always forget that he's the adopted one, and I'm your real son? I have cancer. It was treatable, but why didn't any of you believe me?" At that, I started to laugh, tears streaming down my face. I guess when the pain becomes unbearable, all you can do is laugh. "Mom, Dad, this is the last time I'll ever call you that. I forgave you time and time again, but you always found a new way to hurt me more deeply. I wonder if, after today, you'll regret never showing me any love. But it doesn't matter. I don't care anymore. From this moment on, I don't need it." I wiped a tear from my eye and smiled again. "Clara, you used to adore me, but after Leo joined our family, you changed. Suddenly, he was your favorite little brother. You saved all the best food for him. Well, it's fine. From now on, you'll only have one brother, Leo. Are you happy now?" The chat fell silent for a beat, then exploded. What kind of parents are these? Treating their own son like this for an adopted kid? Wait, if everything he said is true, that means the cancer is real, and this live stream is real. Someone find out where he is. We have to save him. It has to be real. Oh my God, he's bleeding. Watching the increasingly frantic comments, I subconsciously touched my face and realized blood was trickling from my nose and the corners of my eyes. The doctor had told me late-stage pancreatic cancer would be agonizing, that it would be a horrific way to die. He was right. I shakily got to my feet. I gently unclasped the watch Chloe had given me and tossed it carelessly into the air. It traced a blue arc as it plummeted downwards. I looked at the screen one last time. "Chloe, we grew up together. You said childhood sweethearts would never betray each other. I loved you so much. I truly wanted to spend my life with you. But my love for you ends today, right here." I stood up on the highest point of the church spire, overlooking the city of Chicago. This life was ending in pain, just as it was lived. I spread my arms and closed my eyes. As you all wished, I'm gone. If there's a next life, I don't want to be an Anderson. I don't want to be Clara's brother. And I never want to fall in love with Chloe. Goodbye, everyone, for good. With those final words, I let go and plunged from the edge. Chloe and the Andersons had just rushed out of the church doors when they heard a whistling rush of air. Then, amidst the horrified screams of the onlookers, a familiar figure slammed into the pavement right in front of them. Clutching the blue diamond watch in her hand, Chloe couldn't process what had happened. From the moment she saw that familiar silhouette fall from the sky and hit the ground, her vision was filled with an expanding pool of red that stole her ability to think. She watched, numb, as they carried my body away. She watched Leo collapse into hysterics, watched my parents sob uncontrollably, and watched my sister Clara's expression shift from shock to anguish, and finally to fury as she slapped Leo hard across the face. Chloe remained silent. All the sounds around her seemed to fade away as her world turned to grayscale, everything losing its color. The only thing that stood out was the crimson stain on the ground, growing larger, swallowing everything. It was the first time she understood that true heartbreak begins with numbness. The moment she realized I was gone, it felt as if her heart stopped beating, and all feeling ceased. The ambulance arrived and then left, the paramedics shaking their heads with a sigh. Between the cancer, the malnourishment, and the fall, I was long gone. There was nothing to be done. The Andersons called the funeral home to take my body away. My parents were still crying, and Clara said something to Chloe with a frown, but Chloe didn't hear a word. She just stood there, motionless in her wedding dress, long after everyone else had left and the street had fallen silent, even after the blood had been washed from the pavement. She didn't move until a little boy playing in the grass by a storefront suddenly held up his hand, waving something in the air. "Mommy!" he yelled excitedly. "I found a pretty watch." As if sensing something, Chloe slowly turned her head toward him. A brilliant blue sparkle flashed in her eyes. She lunged forward and grabbed the boy's wrist, her grip so tight he started to wail, which brought his mother running out. "What are you doing? Let go of my son." Chloe scrambled for the watch, murmuring frantically, "It's mine. He left it for me. I gave it to him." The shopkeeper, still rattled by the morning's events, heard her and slapped the watch out of her son's hand in a panic. She scooped him up and retreated into her store, scolding, "Don't you know better than to pick up random things? That belonged to the dead man." After they were gone, Chloe carefully picked the watch up from the pavement. She gently brushed the dirt from its face and clutched it in her hand, her fingertips trembling. Her phone rang. Chloe answered, her expression still blank. It was Clara. "Where are you? Ethan's cremation is about to start. Aren't you coming to say your last goodbye?" Hearing Clara's words, a sharp pain shot through Chloe's heart, as if all the numbness had shattered and the agony came rushing back. She gasped for air, but each breath was a suffocating stab of pain. After what felt like an eternity, she managed to whisper, "I'm on my way." But the line was already dead. Clara had hung up. "Chloe took my ashes." Clara had objected at first, arguing that even if I hated my parents and her, I was still an Anderson. Besides, hadn't I made it clear in my final words that I hated Chloe, too? But Chloe said she wanted to take my ashes to the ocean, so I could finally be free, without any restraints. I had been a prisoner in that house, suffocating every day, and the illness had been so painful. She argued I wouldn't want to be trapped in a place that brought me so much misery, even in death. In the end, Clara relented, and against our parents' tearful protests, she gave my ashes to Chloe. Clara returned home, devastated, and locked Leo in his room. They were all to blame, but the real culprit was Leo. If it weren't for his jealousy, his greed, his ruthless scheming, none of this would have happened. But Leo was the only thing his biological parents had left in the world. She couldn't kill him to avenge me. But when she thought of my accusations from the rooftop, Clara's heart clenched, and a bitter taste filled her throat. I was her little brother, the one she had adored for so many years. Where did it all go wrong? How could she have brought herself to be so cruel? When we were kids, she would have gone to the ends of the earth to buy me my favorite snacks just to see me smile. Whenever I got into trouble with our parents, she was always the one who defended me. But after Leo came, she felt like I started to change, becoming greedy and selfish, even developing a gambling problem. She had seen Leo cry more than once, telling her how I mistreated him. It broke her heart. The brother she had cherished had turned into a monster who tormented Leo daily. So she poured all her affection into Leo, so much so that she began to ignore me. But she had forgotten the brother she grew up protecting, forgotten the look of pain on his face, the emptiness in his heart. His last wish was to have never been an Anderson at all. He sat on that rooftop, accusing them with such despair, his face a mask of grim resolve, filled with nothing but disappointment and hatred for them all. How she wished she could do it all over again. If she had another chance, she would love her brother properly and never let him feel wronged again. If she could go back, she would throw him a huge party for his graduation to celebrate his achievement. If she could go back, she would make him his favorite pot roast with her own hands. If she could go back, she would take him to the hospital herself, be there for his surgery, and take care of him so he would never have to be in pain again. If only she could go back. But I had already left them in such despair, and she would never get the chance to tell me she was sorry. "Ethan," I snapped out of a daze. The searing pain I expected never came. Instead, someone was shaking me gently. I opened my eyes to see my sister, Clara, frowning down at me, her eyes narrowed and her hand gripping my shoulder. I was stunned. I looked around the room. Leo was hiding behind my parents, a hurt expression on his face, while Clara held me, her face flushed with anger. The familiar room, the furniture, this was my house. "Answer me. Why were you bullying your classmate?" Clara demanded again, seeing my confused expression. It was supposed to be my birthday, but she'd heard from Leo that I was using our family's wealth to bully kids at school, and that he even had a recording to prove it. When Clara questioned me, all I could say was, I didn't, and it wasn't me, stubbornly refusing to confess. If you won't tell the truth, she threatened, I'll have the bank freeze your accounts and your credit cards. Then you won't be able to throw your money around to bully people. But I just gave a small, cold laugh and muttered something under my breath. Clara frowned, not catching it. What did you say? I looked at her, and the hurt and longing that used to be in my eyes were gone, replaced by a flat, cold indifference, as if I were looking at a stranger. My expression startled her for a moment, but her shock quickly turned to anger. Not only had I done something wrong and refused to admit it, but now I was looking at her with such contempt. Before she could say another word, I interrupted her. I fixed my cold gaze on Leo, a smirk playing on my lips. Leo, you'd better listen carefully. This is the last chance I'm giving you. If you tell Mom, Dad, and Clara the truth right now, I'll let everything else slide. Leo froze. For some reason, he felt that I was different. In that single instant, it was like I had become someone else entirely. My words made him panic, but he quickly put on a pitiful expression for my parents. Everything I said was true, he whimpered. Ethan, my father, seeing this, became enraged. He raised his hand to slap me, but I caught his wrist. He stared in shock at the son who had just stopped his hand, his eyes wide with disbelief. You dare to defy me? I looked him in the eye. Dad, don't you think you should get the facts straight before you hit me? You're going to believe I'm a bully based on a single recording? Aren't you going to call the school? Aren't you going to check with a teacher? My father wrenched his hand free, his face pale, and looked toward my mother. She was too busy comforting Leo to say anything, so she just declared the matter postponed for now. We'll go to your school in a few days and talk to your teachers and classmates ourselves. And don't even think about trying to buy them off. I heard this and gave a cold smirk. You don't have to worry about me. Just make sure Leo hasn't already paid off the teachers and students to frame me. With that, I turned and walked upstairs, leaving them all standing there in stunned silence. Clara and my parents were all stressing over my behavior, but Leo just stood there with his head down, a venomous look in his eyes. The old Ethan never argued, never fought back. What had happened to him? As I walked upstairs, it finally hit me. I had been reborn, sent back several years in time. I remembered this moment. I was just starting my senior year of college at NYU. Leo's grades weren't nearly good enough to get in, but my parents had pulled strings and made a hefty donation to get him into the same university, even the same program. The college experience I had looked forward to was ruined by Leo. He spread rumors that I was a bully, convinced my parents to give him my scholarship, and even submitted my artwork as his own for a competition. But the good thing was, at this point in time, I wasn't sick yet, and he hadn't yet started the rumor that I was a gambling addict, the one that made my parents lose all faith in me for good. Now that I have a second chance, I won't let Leo get his way again. Since fate has given me this opportunity, I'm going to make every single person who wronged me pay. The first step is to get my sister on my side. At this point, Chloe still trusts me completely, so all I have to do is keep things as they are and watch out for Leo's schemes. As for Clara, compared to my parents, she still has some sympathy for me. She'll occasionally stick up for me, which, while rare, is better than nothing. But how do I get her to believe me? Leo is an expert at playing the victim. I have to be more convincing, and more importantly, I need proof. I lay on my bed with my eyes closed, my mind racing as I tried to remember every detail of what came next, what proof Leo had given my parents. Thinking back, I realized that aside from this one accusation of bullying, he never actually had any concrete evidence for anything. It was always just his word against mine, and they always believed him, turning on me in an instant. I let out a bitter laugh. I don't know if that's fortunate or not. They're my own family, yet I couldn't earn their basic trust, while an adopted son who was a pathological liar had all the love and faith in the world. It's pathetic. The next morning, I got up before dawn and went to Clara's room while everyone else was still asleep. She had just woken up when she heard my knock. Frowning, she checked her phone. It was just after 5 a.m. She had been about to get up for her morning workout. Who could possibly be at her door this early? Come in, she called. I pushed the door open and stepped inside. The moment she saw it was me, her frown deepened. What are you doing here so early? I rolled my eyes internally but forced my own to look red and puffy as I walked to her bed. Clara, I said, my voice trembling as if I were about to cry. What's wrong? She asked, a flicker of concern in her eyes. I really didn't bully anyone at school, but I think Leo misunderstood something. Can you please help me? Clara led me over to the small sofa by her window. What do you mean, he misunderstood? She handed me a tissue, her tone softening. Stop crying and just tell me what happened. I took it, a wave of relief washing over me. Starting with her was the right move. I put on my most pitiful voice. I don't know who gave Leo that recording, but it was maliciously edited. Clara, those were my lines from a play we were rehearsing for the school's art festival. Someone took them out of context and edited them to make me sound like a bully. I looked heartbroken, but inside I was sneering. You only believe me when I'm crying, don't you, dear sister? I knew exactly what that recording was the first time I heard it in my past life. But I was a fool back then. I tried to get the proof on my own, and after finally getting it, I hid it inside our family's priceless antique vase, only to be framed by Leo again. Not only was my evidence destroyed, but I was also accused of breaking the vase by pushing him out of spite. So this time, I need to find an ally, someone Leo wouldn't dare to cross. With their help, I can get the proof and have them present it to my parents. How can you prove it? Clara seemed a little impressed that I had come to her with a plausible story. We record all our rehearsals so we can review them later. The head of the drama club has copies. But I'm worried that whoever is trying to frame me might. Clara frowned. She understood. It meant that whoever was behind this knew me and Leo well, knew our family situation, otherwise they wouldn't have given the recording to him in the first place. And the fact that I was telling her this meant there was more to the story than she knew. Even though I'd been acting out more and more these past few years, she wasn't about to let some outsider mess with her family. She looked at me, her eyes narrowed. All right, I'll have someone look into it. Now go get ready for school. And stop crying. I looked down meekly. Thank you, Clara. As I turned and walked out of her room, the pitiful, tear-streaked expression vanished from my face, replaced by a cold, calm mask of indifference. By the time I got to my art class, the studio was already full, leaving only one empty seat in the corner. I remembered that stool. It was broken, the legs so loose that the slightest pressure would make it collapse. Last time, I sat on it without thinking and went crashing to the floor, a rusty nail from the frame gashing my leg. When the teacher saw me, he glanced around the room. Ethan, you're a little late today. There's an open seat in the corner. I nodded and walked toward it. As I passed Leo, I caught the smug, triumphant smirk on his face. I scoffed under my breath. I walked over to the stool, and pretending to organize my supplies, I casually dropped my heavy backpack onto the seat. The rickety stool immediately shattered with a loud crash, and every head in the room turned in my direction. I feigned a startled yelp and jumped back, then looked at the teacher with a sheepish grin. Sorry, Professor. I guess my bag was heavier than I thought. He came over, looking confused. How could a backpack be heavy enough to break a stool? But when he looked closer, he saw that someone had deliberately loosened the screws on every single joint, leaving them barely holding on. No wonder it collapsed. The professor's expression soured. Whoever had pulled this little prank clearly had malicious intent. But with the whole class watching, he couldn't lose his temper. He just gave me a new stool and resumed the lesson. Everyone around me was saying how lucky I was that my backpack took the fall. If I had sat on that thing with all its exposed nails, I could have been seriously hurt. I played along, acting like it was just a stroke of luck. Only Leo watched from across the room, his face a mask of indifference, but his eyes burned with frustration and malice. I sneered to myself. You were lucky this time, Leo. You won't be so lucky next time. Clara investigated everyone in my and Leo's social circles but came up with nothing. She was starting to think I'd made the whole thing up. Then, she received an email from me. The body of the email was blank, but there was an attachment. Clara opened it. It was an audio file. My voice came through, clear as day, reciting the lines from the play, just as I'd told her. A moment later, her phone buzzed with an iMessage from me. Clara, did you get my email? She looked at our message history. The last message was from over a year ago. I had asked if she would come with me on my college move-in day. She never replied. Clara frowned, a strange feeling stirring inside her. When had she started ignoring me like this? I got it, she replied. I believe you. Just focus on your studies for now and try to get along with Leo. We'll talk more at home. I stared at her message, my feelings a complicated mess. Even now, she had to bring up Leo, defending him as if he were her real brother. The flicker of hope I'd felt was instantly extinguished, replaced by cold indifference. I should have known better than to get my hopes up. It was the weekend, so I went home early. After thinking about it for a long time, I went on Twitch and created a new account with the username Deezer. I started a stream titled A Story of Prophecy. I started the stream and looked at the familiar interface, remembering the last time I had gone live, just before I jumped. The chat had been a torrent of abuse. Everyone thought I was just putting on a show for sympathy, calling me a degenerate gambler. It was only when I was on the edge, ready to jump, that their tone finally changed. This time, I would be someone else. I would use the eyes of the entire internet as my witness to expose Leo's true colors and make every single one of them take back what they said. These are? What's that about? Is this a stream for a tabletop game or something? If it is, why is it in the just chatting category? Shouldn't it be under gaming? Maybe the streamer is new. I adjusted my webcam and appeared on screen, and the chat immediately lit up. Whoa, he's cute. Hey, are you streaming a game or something? I smiled at the chat. Nope, not a game. I held up a brand new, empty notebook to the camera. Starting today, I announced, I'm going to write down one prophecy about my own life each day. It might come true tomorrow or sometime soon. The timing is uncertain. Could be good news or it could be bad news. If it's good, we can celebrate. If it's bad, I'll need your help to figure out what to do. I typed up a summary of the rules and pinned it to the top of my channel's page. I didn't have many viewers, but they were all intrigued. The chat started buzzing with anticipation. This sounds intense. With a name like Deezer, is this guy for real? Nah, it's gotta be a script for some viral stunt. Whatever it is, it's definitely original. I smiled at the camera and opened the notebook. And now, I will write my first prophecy. I angled the camera down to show the blank page. I picked up a pen and began to write. Tomorrow, July 12th, the morning will be clear and sunny, but a thunderstorm will hit in the afternoon. It will be my brother's birthday. My parents will make a huge seafood dinner for him, give him the keys to a new apartment, and my sister will give him a camera. My parents and sister will forget that I'm allergic to shellfish, and I will be yelled at for not eating. Wow, the streamer has great handwriting. Is that really a prophecy? Sounds like something you could just guess. Yeah, you could probably figure out the gifts just by paying attention. Or maybe it's all planned out. I smiled at the chat. I'm not done yet. My pen kept moving across the page. I will also have a gift for my brother, but he will say he wants one of my paintings instead. The painting is my entry for a major competition. I don't want to give it to him. What should I do? I closed the notebook and turned the camera back to my face. Alright, that's the prophecy for today. Since tomorrow is my brother's birthday, it's very likely to happen then. So I need your help. How do I say no to him? I added one more thing. And for the record, my parents and sister will definitely side with him, so using them to back me up is not an option. This is so intense, one comment read. Wait, does that mean you're going to stream his birthday party? You can't do that without their permission. I saw that comment and realized they had a point. I proposed an idea to the chat. How about this? I'll start the stream in my room with the camera on, but as soon as I leave, I'll turn the camera off and just keep my mic on. Would that work for you guys? Yeah, that works. Let's try it, they replied. I gave a bright smile. Alright, that's the plan for now. Camera on in my room, audio only when I'm out. That's it for today's stream. I'll see you all tomorrow afternoon. And with that, I went offline. Just then, there was a knock on my door. It was Clara. She frowned at me. Who were you talking to? Chloe just called me because she couldn't get through to you. I glanced at my phone and saw 3 missed calls from her. Oh, sorry. I had my phone on airplane mode while I was painting. I'll call her back right now. I went back into my room and dialed Chloe's number. Chloe picked up right away. Hey, it's me, she said, her voice soft. What were you up to? I couldn't reach you. Just painting, I said with a forced smile. I had my phone on airplane mode by mistake. What's up? This was the first time I'd spoken to her since my rebirth. I wasn't sure how I felt about her anymore. It wasn't love, not anymore, but it wasn't hate either. I guess there's nothing sadder than a heart that's gone cold. After dying once, nothing seemed to matter as much. Chloe murmured softly, I miss you. When I didn't respond, she said it again, more insistently. Ethan, I said I miss you. I gave a small, empty smile that didn't reach my eyes. I know, I said flatly. On the other end of the line, Chloe frowned. I sounded different. Was I mad at her? I used to rely on her for everything, always complaining to her about my family and how unfair they were. Even though she'd heard from Clara and Leo that my stories weren't entirely true, she had never called me out on it. And when she'd said sweet things to me, I'd always gotten shy, not cold and distant like this. Ethan, what's wrong? After a long silence, I finally spoke. Chloe, you know Leo has a crush on you, don't you? She hesitated for a moment before replying, yes. I suddenly laughed. So he had started turning her against me this early on. No wonder she was so cold to me when she came back in my past life. She had already stopped trusting me long before. In her eyes, I was the same person my parents saw. And to think I had trusted her, believed she was the only one on my side. She was just like the rest of them. After a long pause, I said it. Chloe, we should break up. Chloe panicked. She probably didn't even notice her hand was shaking as she clutched her phone. Ethan, no. Why would we break up? I don't agree. I didn't say anything. No matter what she asked, I remained silent. Finally, when she too fell quiet, I spoke into the silence. Chloe, you know why? You stopped trusting me a long time ago, didn't you? So let's just end it. The truth was, I was hesitant. It was only after being reborn that I finally understood why she had been so cold to me in my past life. Why she knew I was innocent but still stood by and did nothing as my family pushed me closer and closer to the edge. Even after she found out I had pancreatic cancer, she never took me to get treatment. Right up until the end, when the cancer had spread everywhere, she never once asked me about my health. It was all because she had chosen to believe Leo's lies. She was no different from my parents or my sister. Chloe didn't answer me right away. After a long, stunned silence, she said, I'm coming home as soon as I can. We'll talk about this in person. I gave a non-committal laugh and hung up. Looking around my familiar room, thinking of everyone I had known, I felt a sudden, piercing chill. It was as if I were trapped in a block of ice, the cold seeping straight into my heart. In my last life, I often wondered what I had done to make everyone turn against me. But now, in this new life, I finally understood. I hadn't done anything wrong. No matter how much they pushed me, I never betrayed them. My only mistake was trusting my family. Trusting the woman I loved. I was just a fool, stubbornly walking down the wrong path, refusing to turn back even when I hit a dead end. That's why I had to die to prove my point. I closed my eyes. I got what I deserved. The next day, at 4 p.m. sharp, I started my stream. The chat immediately flooded with messages. There were a lot more people than yesterday. He's so punctual. I love a streamer who's on time. What's on the agenda for today? Is it time to see if the prophecy comes true? I opened my notebook to yesterday's entry. So, I said to the chat, yesterday I asked for your help with a problem. Let's hear your ideas. The chat immediately sprang to life. Ooh, me first. I think you should just tell your brother the painting has already been submitted to the competition. He can't ask for it then, right? My advice is to give it to him, but hide your signature somewhere in the painting. What's going on? What painting? What brother? I scrolled through the chat, reading the suggestions. As I mentioned yesterday, I explained, the painting is for a competition. That's the whole reason he wants it. That's cheating, one comment read. Seeing that, I smiled. This time around, there was no way I was going to let Leo become famous off my work. After a moment's thought, I said to the chat, in that case, I'd like you all to be my witnesses. My relationship with this painting ends now. I walked over to the easel and took down the framed canvas, then adjusted my camera so everyone could see it clearly. I carefully removed the painting from its frame, leaving just the stretched canvas. Then, as the chat filled with gasps and cries of dismay, I took a tube of black paint and methodically destroyed my own work. The chat exploded. Oh my God, I had no idea it was that good. No wonder he'd rather destroy it than give it away. That's professional level work. This hurts me to watch. The streamer must be devastated. Well, if his brother doesn't end up asking for it, this is going to be really awkward. I glanced at the chat and shook my head. Oh, he'll ask for it. It broke my heart to destroy the painting. It had taken me nearly a month to finish. In my past life, it won first prize at the competition, only my name wasn't on it. That painting was what made Leo famous, hailed as a young genius artist. This time, I wasn't going to let that happen. I'd rather destroy it myself. I made sure to record a video of myself doing it, just in case Leo tried to deny anything later. I saved the video and checked the time. An hour had passed. It was almost time for dinner. I took the ruined canvas and my phone downstairs to the dining room. I had turned my camera off, but the chat was still going wild. Looking around the dining room, I suddenly had an idea. I think I just found a way to keep the camera on, I said. I walked over to the dining table. We all had our assigned seats, and for Leo's birthday dinner, the table was decorated with 2 large flower baskets. I switched to my phone's front-facing camera, angled it toward my seat, and then tucked it inside one of the flower baskets, hidden from view. This way, my family wouldn't see the phone, and the viewers wouldn't be able to see our faces clearly, only our general shapes. Just as I got it set up, Leo walked in with my parents, Clara following close behind. Seeing me already at the table, my mother actually cracked a rare smile. Once everyone was seated, my father gave a nod to the housekeeper. We're all here. You can bring out the food. Yes, sir, she replied respectfully, and headed to the kitchen. A moment later, the dishes began to arrive, and as our housekeeper announced each one, the chat started to lose its mind, though of course, no one in the room could see it. Oh my God, it really is all seafood. But didn't he say he was allergic? Even if it's for the other son's birthday, you can't just starve your firstborn, can you? This is basically abuse. I didn't have time to read the chat. Even though I knew this was going to happen, seeing it play out in front of me still hurt. My parents kept piling food onto Leo's plate, and Clara was smiling, telling him to eat up. I sat there with an empty plate, unable to eat a single thing on the table. I was an outsider, excluded from their perfect little family. My mother noticed I hadn't touched my food. "Are you waiting for someone to feed you?" she asked, her voice dripping with disdain. "Or is nothing here good enough for your highness?" I reined in my emotions and replied coldly, "I'm allergic to shellfish. You're allowed to forget that, but I'm not." I put down my fork and crossed my arms, watching them. They paid me no mind. When the meal was over, it was time for presents. "Leo, this is from your mother and me," my father said, handing him a small box containing a jade signet ring. Leo took it happily, but after opening it, he put on a concerned expression. "But isn't this the ring Grandma left for Ethan?" My mother shot a glare at me. "He's been misbehaving," she said coldly. "He doesn't deserve it." Then her voice softened as she turned back to Leo. "You keep it safe now. Don't lose it." The chat was filled with sighs. The favoritism is so blatant. Wait, is the streamer the adopted one? With the way they treat him, he can't be their biological son. Everything he predicted has come true so far. Just then, Clara spoke up. "Leo, this is from me. It's that camera you've wanted for so long. Think of it as an early graduation present." It was a beautiful, professional-grade camera. Leo had no idea how to use it, of course, but that didn't matter. They just wanted to give him the best. "Thanks, Clara," Leo said, taking the gift happily. Then he turned to me. "What about your gift, Ethan?" At his words, all eyes in the room turned to me. I sighed and pulled out the gift I had prepared, an expensive, handcrafted sculpture. But after taking it, Leo said, "It's nice, but it's not quite as good as what Clara and Mom and Dad gave me." I felt the weight of the other three's expectant stares and sighed again. What was coming was coming. "What do you want, Leo?" "I want you to give me your painting for the competition." As soon as the words left his mouth, the chat erupted. "You've got to be kidding me. This has to be staged." I threw my head back and roared with laughter, unable to stop. I only paused when I saw Clara frowning at me. "Fine," I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "You want it so badly? It's yours." I reached down and picked up the canvas that had been leaning against my chair, still covered in a black cloth, and held it out to him. Leo, surprised that I had agreed so easily, took it with a grin. "Really? Thanks, Ethan." But the moment he pulled off the cloth, his expression turned thunderous. "Ethan," he roared, "how dare you? You lied to me right in front of Mom and Dad." My expression remained cool and detached. I didn't even flinch. "I didn't lie," I said, holding out my phone, the video of me destroying the painting already queued up. "That is the painting. See for yourself." Leo stared in disbelief as he watched the video of me methodically ruining the canvas. He pointed a trembling finger at me. You. I slapped his hand away, a wild look in my eyes. "Me what? It's my painting. I'd rather destroy it than let you have it." While they were all busy comforting Leo, I discreetly retrieved my phone from the flower basket and went back to my room. No one cared about how I felt. All that mattered was Leo. It was only after I had disappeared from view that Clara looked back at the video, at my trembling hands and red-rimmed eyes, and fell into thought. Remembering the wild look in my eyes, for the first time, she wondered if maybe they had gone too far. Back in my room, I finally took my phone out of its hiding place. Looking at the frantic chat, I smiled grimly. "You all think this is some kind of performance, don't you? Believe me, I wish it were. But this is my life." I sat back down at my desk and began to write the next prophecy. Today is July 13th. Tomorrow will be a wonderful day. My ex-girlfriend is coming home. The chat was still buzzing. Many people felt sorry for me, saying my family was awful. Others were cursing out Leo for his greed and shamelessness. But it didn't matter. This was my life and they couldn't change it. Of course, there were still some who thought the whole thing was a pre-planned script. I didn't bother to argue. Time would prove them wrong. I opened my notebook to a new page and wrote my second prophecy. My ex-girlfriend is coming home, but a few days from now, my brother will tell my parents and sister that I have a gambling problem. This is a lie. How do I prove my innocence and make them believe me? After I finished writing, I stared at the words, a cold dread creeping into my heart. This was where the real nightmare of my past life had begun. My parents had believed Leo's lies and branded me a gambling addict. They had frozen all my accounts. I had to sell my paintings just to survive. But that meager income was nowhere near enough to cover my medical bills later on. This time, I had to stop it at the source. I had to expose Leo for the liar he was. I snapped back to the present and looked at the camera. You all saw a lot today. Some of you were guessing that I'm not my parents' biological son. But the truth is, I am. My brother is the one who's adopted. The chat went wild. No way. Who favors an adopted son over their own flesh and blood? Are you sure you've got that right? Maybe you should double-check. I just smiled, not bothering to argue. It's not that hard to understand, I said calmly. At first, they probably just wanted to make him feel secure. A kid who's lost his parents needs more love, right? But over time, they started believing everything he said and lost all sense of fairness. I just hope they don't live to regret it. The chat filled with sympathetic comments, but I didn't engage. I just felt a little empty. Then I saw a comment asking why I had written ex-girlfriend. I froze. Chloe. She was the one variable I hadn't accounted for. In my past life, she hadn't come back this early. Our relationship had been fine. We never fought, let alone broke up. This time, I had ended things prematurely. I had no idea what the consequences would be. I told the chat when I'd be live next and quickly ended the stream. When I decided to start streaming, I knew what I was getting into. It was partly to get advice from people, but it was also to create a public record, to have witnesses. I had already been preparing for this. I had bank statements for all my income and expenses. I had videos of myself out with friends, painting in my studio, even doing volunteer work, all under the guise of making memories. I remembered how Leo had framed me last time. He used all the times I wasn't at home or at school as proof that I was out gambling. I had no way to prove otherwise, and no one believed me. This time, I had an alibi for every second. At 10 a.m., after getting some work done on my thesis project, I started my stream right on schedule. A small crowd was already waiting. He's always on time. Hey, I was thinking about your problem. The best way to fight these rumors is to give him a taste of his own medicine. Fight fire with fire. You should accuse him of something right in front of your parents. If he can't prove he didn't do it, then they can't prove you did. The helpful suggestions started rolling in. I nodded, smiling. It wasn't a bad idea. I took out my notebook and wrote beneath yesterday's entry, Solution 1. Give him a taste of his own medicine. I looked back at the chat. Any more ideas? More viewers started trickling in. I have an idea, it's a little devious, one wrote. Basically, you play dumb. If he says he just heard you were gambling, you claim someone is trying to slander you and beg your family for help. Make it about them. Say it's a plot to ruin the family business. That's the only way they'll take it seriously. If he claims he saw you himself, you act shocked. Then pull out your alibis for those exact times. Play the victim, make a huge scene. Don't say he's mistaken. Agree with him. Say someone must be impersonating you as part of a conspiracy, and insist on calling the police. That will shut down the rumor for good and scare him out of trying it again. I liked that one too. I wrote it down. Solution 2. Play dumb. The chat filled with laughing emojis. LOL. I love how he just summed that whole paragraph up with, play dumb. As we were talking, I heard a knock. I said a quick goodbye to the chat, turned off my camera, and went to open the door. It was Chloe. She had just gotten back from her trip abroad, and she looked as beautiful as ever. I was taken aback. You're back already? What's up? Chloe frowned. I really had changed. The hopeful look I used to have in my eyes was gone, replaced by a cold, detached calm. Why? Aren't you happy to see me? I guess I hadn't expected her to fly all the way back here just to try and win me back. We had been childhood sweethearts, we were engaged. We were supposed to get married as soon as I graduated. I let her in and we sat on the small sofa in my room. I looked her in the eye. Chloe, you know Leo has a crush on you, which means you must have heard all the things they say about me. Why did you never tell me? I watched her brow furrow. After a moment, she replied in her usual cool tone. I'm guessing he told you I've changed, said a lot of bad things about me. And you believed him, didn't you? She looked at me and reached for my hand, but I pulled away. A flash of annoyance crossed her face, quickly replaced by panic. Yes, I believed some of it, she admitted. But so what? You're still the man I'm going to marry. It's just petty rivalry between you two. It doesn't change anything. Her words infuriated me. So you don't care that he was lying about me? I shot back. You don't care that everything he has now should have been mine? No, that's not it, she said quickly. Ethan, listen, I know you've been treated unfairly. That's why I want to get married as soon as possible, so you can get out of that house. I scoffed. I didn't do it, and I'm not going to say I did just because everyone else believes it. And another thing, we're broken up. You shouldn't come here anymore. With that, I pushed her out and closed the door, ignoring her frantic knocking. By now, my stream's chat was in an absolute uproar. I was about to respond to the chat when I heard Clara's voice from the hallway. Ethan, open this door. Is this how we taught you to treat a guest? I sighed. It was already noon. She was probably calling us for lunch. I packed up my things, grabbing the iPad with all my video evidence, and slipped my still streaming phone into my pocket. Showtime, I murmured. I opened the door to find two women standing there, my sister and the woman I once loved, both looking at me with disapproval. Even if you two are having a fight, Clara said, her voice low and angry, you don't just slam the door in her face. What's wrong with you? I didn't bother to argue. I just gave her a cool look and said quietly, we're not a couple. We broke up. Then I turned and headed downstairs, not seeing the stunned look on Clara's face or the color drain from Chloe's. Ever since Leo's birthday, I'd thought the flower arrangements on the dining table were a nice touch, so I'd asked the housekeeper to keep them there, just with fresh flowers. Maybe my mother agreed it looked nice, or maybe she just didn't care enough to object, but she went along with it. This made it the perfect hiding spot for my phone. I went downstairs a few minutes early to get it set up in the same flower basket as before, then waited for everyone else to arrive. A few minutes later, everyone was there except for my mother and Leo. Clara sat Chloe down in the seat next to mine, telling me to be a good host, before taking her own seat. My father smiled at Chloe. It's good to see you, Chloe. I hope you're hungry. Thank you, Mr. Anderson, she replied. Before he could say anything else, my mother's furious voice cut through the air. Ethan Anderson, you ungrateful brat. How dare you gamble? I lowered my head and smirked. And so it begins. My mother stormed over to me, her eyes blazing with fury. When I looked up at her with a calm, detached expression, her anger boiled over, and she slapped me hard across the face. It was so fast that no one had time to react. My cheeks stung, and the metallic taste of blood filled my mouth. I coughed and quickly grabbed a napkin, spitting a mouthful of blood into it. That's when everyone else finally reacted. Chloe jumped to her feet, her face etched with concern, asking if I was okay. My father and Clara snapped out of their shock. My father went to my mother's side, asking what was wrong, while Clara went to get Leo. Leo seemed just as stunned as everyone else. He probably hadn't expected my mother to get violent. When Clara pulled him forward, he stared at me, now being fussed over by Chloe, his expression a mixture of emotions. My mother repeated what Leo had told her for everyone to hear. Leo went to a friend's birthday party wearing the signet ring you gave him. One of the other guests, some rich kid who apparently spends all his time in casinos, saw the ring and asked Leo how he knew Ethan. When Leo asked what he meant, the kid told him that Ethan is a regular at the casinos, and that he'd even been showing off a picture of the ring, bragging that it was worth a fortune and he'd never have to worry about money. My father listened, his frown deepening with every word. The moment she finished, he slammed his fist on the table, the sound echoing through the room. You disgraceful brat, he roared. Have you forgotten everything we taught you? A college student, throwing his life away on gambling and dragging our family's name through the mud. Get on your knees now. I almost laughed. I gently pushed Chloe away, wiped the blood from my mouth, and fixed my gaze on Leo. In my past life, I had been sulking in my room during this dinner, still angry about his birthday party. I never knew how full of holes his story actually was. I sat up straight and gave my parents, who were looking at me as if they wanted to murder me, a small, calm smile. Mom, Dad. I turned to Clara. You should all sit down. This might take a while. Clara frowned, a strange thought crossing her mind. She shot a suspicious glance at Leo before silently taking her seat. My parents sat down as well, their faces still masks of fury. Fine, my mother seethed. Let's hear what lies you come up with this time. Once everyone was settled, I stared at Leo, my voice ice cold. Leo, the last time you accused me of being a bully, didn't I tell you that was your last chance? I gave you an opportunity and you threw it away. So don't blame me for what happens next. Leo looked at me, a flicker of unease in his eyes, but he quickly put on his usual innocent, wounded expression. Tears welled up as he looked to our parents for support, and just like that, without a single word, he had them on his side. We're talking about your problems, my father said, his voice low and dangerous. And you're still trying to bully Leo? It seems your mother's slap didn't knock any sense into you. I let out a bitter, self-mocking laugh. See? These are your parents. What did you expect? I closed my eyes, thinking about how to best dismantle Leo's web of lies. When I opened them again a minute later, any trace of hurt or hope was gone from my expression, replaced by pure, cold resolve. For a split second, Leo felt a chill run down his spine. He frowned, the feeling of dread in his gut intensifying. I broke the silence. So, Leo claims he met this casino-loving rich kid at a classmate's birthday party. Let's set aside whether this person even exists for a moment. Why would his friend invite a known gambler to his party? Does his friend gamble? And what about you, Leo? Does your friend take you gambling, too? My rapid-fire questions left Leo flustered. He didn't know how to respond, so he just whimpered, "I don't." My mother immediately jumped to his defense. "We know what kind of boy Leo is," she snapped. "Don't you dare try to slander him." She rubbed his back comfortingly. My father, however, looked thoughtful. "He has a point, though. Leo, maybe you should spend less time with that friend." Leo nodded meekly. "Okay, Dad," I scoffed. So when Leo makes baseless accusations, I get slapped without a chance to defend myself. But when I ask a few logical questions, I'm the one slandering him. But I was done arguing. I paused for a beat, then continued. "Second, about that photo of the ring. Leo, couldn't you have come up with a more believable lie?" I said with a cold smile, then turned to my parents and Clara. "And you three, did you even bother to get it appraised before you gave it away?" My words left them all speechless. "What are you talking about?" my father demanded. I touched my swollen cheek, my gaze turning to ice. "Didn't Grandma ever tell you? That ring is a fake. I remember when I was little, back when my parents and sister still loved me, my grandmother was the one who loved me most. I often saw her looking at that ring with a sad expression, and I thought the ring itself was what made her sad. So I told her to give it to me so she wouldn't have to be sad anymore." She had laughed and pulled me into her lap and told me the story of the ring. It was the ring she had given my grandfather when they got engaged. But later, just after she found out she was pregnant with my father, my grandfather suddenly fell gravely ill. She was pregnant and couldn't manage the family business on her own. Her partners took advantage of the situation and stole the company right out from under her. My grandfather's treatment was astronomically expensive, and back then, there was no guarantee it would even work. With a baby on the way and their funds dwindling, my grandfather decided to refuse treatment to provide for her. But my grandmother wouldn't have it. She pawned the ring. Back then, the real ring was worth a fortune. But even with the money, the surgery was unsuccessful, and my grandfather passed away. By the time my grandmother had arranged the funeral and went back to the pawn shop, the ring had already been sold to a foreign collector and was gone forever. She had a replica made from memory, but she could never find jade of the same quality. She used the money from the ring to found the company we have today, and as it grew, she searched the world for the original, but she never found it. So the ring she left behind was just a memento, a way for her to remember my grandfather. It wasn't worth anything. She said she was leaving it to me in the hopes that one day, I would be the one to find the original. Seeing the shocked looks on their faces, I felt a lump form in my throat. I missed my grandmother. If she were still here, it would break her heart to see them treating me like this. The color was draining from Leo's face. He had never expected this twist. I looked at Leo's panicked expression and smiled. "I've always known the ring was a fake. Why would I go around bragging about it? You really walked right into this one, didn't you?" Leo blinked, tears welling up in his eyes. "Ethan, I didn't know," he whimpered. "I didn't know the story, but what I told you is true." My mother immediately started dabbing at his tears. "It's all right, sweetie, you didn't know. You were just tricked. It's not your fault." My father frowned, opening his mouth to speak, then closing it again. It was Clara who spoke, her voice low and serious. "That only proves you weren't bragging about the ring. It doesn't prove you weren't gambling. How else would this person know your name and know about the ring?" I turned and met her gaze. "Has it ever occurred to you, Clara, that Leo might be the one lying?" I watched her frown deepen and gave a bitter laugh. "The real gambler," I said quietly, "is someone else." I hadn't figured it out at first, either. It was only after I was reborn that I started to get suspicious and looked into Leo's activities. And I found a lot. It turned out that most of what he said was true. He had just swapped my name for his. The real gambler was Leo. To avoid being recognized, he always wore a white fox mask at the casinos, telling people he was the son of a prominent family and wanted to protect his privacy. And to make matters worse, he had started dressing just like me. We have similar builds, but our styles are completely different. He's always loved bright, flashy clothes, while I prefer a more minimalist look. He used that to his advantage, copying my style and wearing that mask to the casinos. No wonder they never believed me in my past life, no matter how much I begged Clara to investigate. They must have looked into it themselves and found proof that I was the one gambling. That's why, this time, I came prepared with my own evidence. I had time-stamped videos of where I was and what I was doing. It only took a few words for Leo to ruin my reputation, but it took me months of painstaking work to prove my innocence. I sighed and placed a thick file on the table. Leo, this is a file all about you. Would you like to see it? He stared at me, stunned, but quickly regained his composure. What's there to see? I'm an open book. Mom and Dad know everything about me. If I ever did anything wrong, they'd kill me. I burst out laughing. Good one. You'd better remember you said that. His stubborn denial was almost comical. I opened the file and began laying out the pages, one by one, for everyone to see. My father's brow furrowed as he looked at the documents. My mother just glanced at them, until her eyes landed on a still from a security camera. You dare to accuse Leo? She shrieked, pointing at the photo. Look, isn't that you? I sneered. Such a good mother to recognize me so easily. But take a closer look. Is that really me? Or can you not recognize your precious Leo just because he's wearing different clothes? You'll hurt his feelings. My mother was speechless. But Clara picked up the photo, her brow furrowed. She pointed to the timestamp. This isn't Ethan, she said. He was working as a docent at the gallery opening that day. I was there. I was stunned. I hadn't even gotten to my video evidence yet, and here was Clara, defending me. Chloe, who had been silent until now, spoke up as well. It's not him. Ethan has a tattoo on his lower back. We got them together. No one else knows about it. A warmth spread through my chest. I think I smiled, but my eyes were starting to burn. So, the person in that photo is Leo, pretending to be me. Before the words were even out of my mouth, Leo shrieked, Impossible! That's not me. You could have just covered the tattoo. Before anyone else could speak, I cut in. Still denying it? Here are your credit card statements. And here's the proof that you've been embezzling company funds with the credit card Mom and Dad gave you. You should know, Leo, there's always a paper trail. I pulled a stack of papers from my bag and looked coldly at my parents. And as for you two, your blind faith in him and your complete lack of discipline have seriously damaged the company's finances. If I hadn't looked into it, who knows how long this would have gone on. I paused, then turned to look at Clara. I also came across something else, I said after a long moment. A will that Grandma wrote before she died. I took out my phone and made a call to one of Clara's assistants, telling him to bring in the documents. When the assistant entered, everyone recognized him. He was an older man named Mr. Davies, whom my grandmother herself had assigned to Clara. But because he was quiet and unassuming, Clara had never given him much responsibility. But I remembered him. In my past life, just before I jumped, he was the only one who had shown me any kindness, who hadn't treated me with contempt. He was the one I had entrusted with my final letters to my sister, the one who had first realized what I was about to do. So, in this new life, I sought him out and asked for his help. He gave me the number of a lawyer and told me that my grandmother had left a will, specifically for me. At the mention of a will, my father's suspicious gaze shifted between me and Leo. What will? He demanded. I didn't answer until Mr. Davies entered, followed by a man in a suit carrying a briefcase. The lawyer introduced himself, then opened his briefcase and began to read from the will of the late Mrs. Anderson. I have spent my life building this company, nurturing it as I would my own child. As such, I believe I have the right to decide who will care for it after I am gone. I currently hold 73% of the shares in Anderson Corporation. I hereby bequeath 52% of those shares to my grandson, Ethan Anderson. Upon my death, he will become the majority shareholder of this company. Furthermore, the trust fund I established, known as the Pathfinder Fund, is to be considered a gift to my grandson Ethan upon his 18th birthday. He is to be its sole beneficiary, and upon reaching the age of majority, the funds are to be made available to him as startup capital for any future endeavors. Signed, Eleanor Anderson. When the lawyer finished, the room was silent. Nearly all of her shares, a controlling interest in the company, had been left to me. Clara was the first to speak. Why didn't we know about this? Is it legally binding? It is fully notarized, Ms. Anderson, the lawyer replied respectfully. As per your grandmother's instructions, it was not to be executed until after Mr. Anderson's graduation, unless he found himself in dire circumstances. When Mr. Anderson contacted us, his situation, Clara understood. My grandmother must have seen how my parents treated me, how they favored Leo, and this was her way of protecting me. She had tried to talk to them, but they had insisted they were doing nothing wrong, that Leo simply deserved more affection because he was better behaved. So even as she was dying, my grandmother had worried about what would happen to me. And she was right. My life had gotten progressively worse because of their favoritism. I had contacted the lawyer just as I was about to be framed as a gambling addict. Hearing my grandmother's words again, my eyes welled with tears. She had been my only ally in this family. I fought back the tears and took out my iPad. And as for the gambling, I said, my voice thick with emotion, here are my alibis for every accusation. They have all been legally verified. Before I could finish, Leo started screaming, a wild, hysterical sound. Ethan, why? After everything I did, how could you take it all away from me? I looked down at him, a cold, triumphant laugh escaping my lips. I warned you, didn't I? You brought this on yourself. Chloe looked at me, her brow furrowed. Ethan, she said quietly, you've been planning this, haven't you? Why? Clara had realized it too. This wasn't something I could have put together overnight. I had known this was coming. I looked down at the hysterical boy on the floor and sneered. That's right. I knew this was coming. I've been waiting for this day. It was only then that my parents seemed to realize the true extent of their mistake. My mother reached a trembling hand toward me, but I flinched back, watching her with wary eyes. Seeing my reaction, my mother's eyes filled with tears. Ethan, she whispered, her voice trembling. My father just stared at Leo, his face a mask of heartbroken disbelief. How could you be? I watched them all in silence. After a moment, I remembered my stream was still running. In front of everyone, I calmly retrieved my phone from the flower basket and walked upstairs. So much had happened in such a short time, their entire world had been turned upside down. Chloe saw me go upstairs and followed me. As she reached my door, she heard me talking to someone. Yes, it took a long time to prepare all the materials. At least a month. She frowned, wondering who I was talking to. There was a knock on the door. I was in the middle of explaining things to my viewers when I looked up and saw Chloe standing in the doorway. Come in, I said. Chloe walked over to my desk and saw me turn off my webcam. It was only then that she realized I had been streaming. You were live just now? The whole time? I nodded. The entire dinner. And I'm still live now. So if you have something to say it quick. Chloe glanced at my screen, memorizing my username, then turned and left without a word. I got up, closed the door, and turned my camera back on to continue talking to the chat. Sorry for the long stream today, guys, I said. A lot happened, and I almost forgot I was still live. In just a few hours, my follower count had skyrocketed into the hundreds of thousands, and the chat was moving too fast for me to read. I smiled at the chat. My sister is the one running the company. I have no interest in fighting her for it. After everything she put me through, I think she'll be happy to let me be a silent partner and just collect the dividends. Dude, you're retiring in your 20s. I'm so jealous. A comment read. This has been a long one, guys. Things should be quiet for the next couple of days, now that the biggest problem is solved. I'll still be streaming at my usual time, but it'll probably just be me painting. Feel free to stop by if you're interested. That's all for today. I've got a lot to take care of. Have a good one, everyone. Bye. With that, I ended the stream. I did have a lot to deal with. Leo's situation was out in the open now. I knew Clara would handle it. But my situation with Chloe was something I had to deal with myself. As soon as Chloe got home, she went to her computer and searched for my channel, but I had already signed off. So she started searching online for a recording of the stream. To her surprise, she found one. She started watching from my very first stream. The more she watched, the deeper her frown became, and a growing sense of unease and heartache settled in her chest. She watched as my family ignored and betrayed me, condemning me without even giving me a chance to explain. And then there was the slap from my mother today. It had been so hard, my face was still swollen. It must have hurt so much. She closed her eyes, a suffocating feeling in her chest, the pain so sharp it was hard to breathe. All this time she was away, I had been suffering so much. All those things I had cried to her about, they were all true. And what had she done? She had sided with my family, chosen to believe Leo's lies, and ignored my pleas for help. No wonder I didn't trust her anymore. Chloe picked up her phone and called me. After a few rings, I answered. Hello, Ethan. You watched the stream, didn't you, Chloe? I said, my voice flat. I did, she said, her voice thick with tears. I'm so sorry. I understand now why you wanted to break up. But Ethan, how did you know all of that was going to happen? How did you predict it so accurately? As she asked the question, she had a sinking feeling that the answer was more complicated than the "I dreamed it" explanation I had given on my stream. Before I could reply, she added, "Ethan, can we please talk?" "All right," I said. "Let's take a walk tomorrow. Meet me at 2, at that old cafe we used to go to on Bleecker Street." "Okay, see you tomorrow." The next day, Chloe was waiting outside the cafe when she saw me walking toward her. I was wearing a simple white shirt and black pants, my posture straight and confident. For the first time, she felt a pang of regret for leaving me here to go study abroad. She had missed so much. She just stared at me until I was standing right in front of her. "Chloe," I said. She snapped out of her trance. "Ethan, you're here. Do you want to get some cake?" I shook my head. I used to love the cake here, but I hadn't had a sweet tooth in a long time. "Let's walk," I said. "I know you have questions. I'll tell you everything." I led her through a few side streets until we reached the Hudson River, and we sat down on a bench overlooking the water. When she was settled, I turned to her and smiled, a small, sad smile. "Chloe," I said, my voice quiet but clear, "I've died once before." She stared at me, at my calm expression and even tone, and thought she must have misheard. She looked at me in shock, unable to form a coherent thought. I smiled, but it was a hollow, empty gesture. "You asked how I knew everything that was going to happen. It's because I've already lived through it all once before. Yesterday wasn't the first time my mother slapped me for this." Chloe frowned, her eyes wide with disbelief. "How is that possible? Even if you dreamed it." I couldn't help but laugh. "So you really did watch all the streams?" "It wasn't a dream, Chloe. That was just what I told the chat." I turned to look at her, my eyes narrowed against the wind whipping off the river. For a second, she thought I looked like some avenging angel, returned from the underworld. "After all," I said, my voice low, "I couldn't exactly tell them I'd been reborn, could I?" Chloe gasped, staring at me in disbelief. She couldn't understand how I could say such a thing so calmly. I held her gaze for a long moment before turning to look out at the river. "It's all true," I said, my voice devoid of emotion. "In my last life, I died at 25.
Suicide.
I jumped from a building. I had terminal pancreatic cancer." Chloe frowned. She couldn't understand it. Why would I have let it get to that point? Why would I have jumped? She didn't have to say it out loud. I could see the questions in her eyes. "Sounds ridiculous, doesn't it?" I said. "The son of the wealthy Anderson family, killing himself over a treatable illness. But that's how it happened. I was a fool in my last life. I kept hoping my parents and sister would come to their senses. I kept hoping you would help me when you came home, but you didn't. Leo told them I was a gambling addict, and they believed him. Even when I showed them the doctor's diagnosis, they refused to believe I was sick. My sadness seemed to be contagious." She looked as if she couldn't breathe. "Ethan, I cut her off, my voice sharp with sarcasm. "Are you going to ask why you didn't help me? Can't you figure it out for yourself? You're only 22, and you already don't trust me. When it's my word against his, you automatically assume I'm the one who's lying. And that's now. Imagine what another 3 years of his poison would do." I let out a harsh, humorless laugh. "Come on, Chloe. You know yourself. Do you really think that 3 years from now, you would have believed I was sick and not just a degenerate gambler?" She was silent. She couldn't argue because she knew it was true. She wouldn't have believed me. She looked at me, her expression pained, and I could see she wanted to say something, to promise that this time would be different, but the words died on her lips, empty and meaningless. Before she could gather her thoughts, I delivered the final blow. "Do you know when I died, Chloe?" She looked at me, a sense of dread washing over her as she saw the raw fury and grief in my eyes. "I died on your wedding day," I said, my voice shaking with rage. "Yours and Leo's. I jumped from the roof of the church where you were getting married." Chloe shot to her feet, staring down at me in horror. "That's impossible." I stared up at her, the wind tearing at my words, but she heard everyone. "Why is it impossible? What if Leo threatened to kill himself if you didn't marry him? Or what if, 3 years from now, you had fallen in love with him?" She didn't know what to say. She wanted to tell me she would never do that I was the one she loved. But she knew I was right. Based on the path she was on, how could she promise it wouldn't happen? It was only then that she finally understood why I had been so angry, why I had insisted on breaking up. I already knew how the story ended. If I hadn't come back, if I hadn't found the evidence, her love for me would have slowly eroded, replaced by suspicion and doubt. But now it wasn't too late. She still had a chance. "Ethan, I am so sorry," she pleaded. "Please just give me a chance." a chance to make it up to you, to be there for you. I turned to her and smiled, a sad, tired smile. You don't need to apologize, Chloe. And I don't need your love. We're broken up. Let's just leave it at that. She knelt in front of me, grabbing my hands, her eyes filled with a desperation I had never seen before. No, Ethan, please don't leave me. I know you can't forgive me right now, but please, don't shut me out completely. Give me a chance. I won't go back. I'll stay here with you, and I'll be good to you. And maybe, someday, when you're ready to forgive me, we can be together again. Her voice was trembling, but her grip on my hands was firm, her eyes pleading. A pang of pain shot through me. I had begged her just like this in my past life, begged her not to give in to my parents, not to marry Leo. But she hadn't listened, and now here she was begging me. I looked at her for a long moment, then hardened my heart. If you want to wait, then wait, I said coldly. Think of it as a cooling off period. I've been swamped with graduation, juggling my thesis project and my internship. Meanwhile, Clara finally started acting like a sister. After I gave her the evidence on Leo, she launched a full investigation and uncovered everything. It turned out Leo had started gambling as a teenager. My parents spoiled him rotten, giving him more money than he knew what to do with, and he fell in with a bad crowd of rich kids who introduced him to the casino scene. He got lost in that world of easy money and fast living. That's when he started impersonating me, using my identity to get into the high-stakes games. He had been planning this for years. After hearing all of this, my parents glanced nervously over at me, sitting at the other end of the table, eating in silence. It was the first time in over a month that I had eaten a meal with them. They knew they had wronged me deeply, but they had no idea how to even begin to make amends. As for Leo, they had loved him for so many years. Even after everything he'd done, they couldn't bring themselves to cut him off completely. So when Clara first suggested sending him to a military academy abroad, they had objected. Leo has always been so frail, they'd argued. How can we send him so far away, to a place like that? That is, until I casually remarked, so you'd rather he stay here and keep gambling? After that, they didn't object again. They knew that they were largely to blame for the way he had turned out. Besides, with Leo gone, I was their only son. They couldn't undo the damage they had done, and they certainly weren't going to go against my wishes now. So Leo was sent away. But the chasm between me and my parents remained, a vast, bottomless pit that could never be filled. They didn't even know how to begin to fix things. The other day, my mother cooked all my old favorite foods, including the pot roast I used to love. But I just stood there, looked at the food, and walked away without taking a single bite. I met their attempts at reconciliation with a cold stare. Don't bother trying to win me over, I said. I don't need you to pretend to love me now. I turned and walked upstairs. At the top of the stairs, I paused and said, without turning around, it's too late for your love. I don't need it anymore. I was like a stranger watching their lives from a distance, an outsider looking in. It was only then that they finally realized that some damage can never be undone. I've been so busy lately, I haven't streamed in months. I finally went live again after a 2-month hiatus, figuring most of my followers would be gone by now. But to my surprise, a small crowd was already there waiting for me. OMG, he's live. I just checked out of habit and he's actually here. You must have been busy IRL. I saw your gallery show. Wait, what? A gallery show? Where? Tell me right now. Don't make me beg. I laughed. The show is already over, I told them. And I just finished my thesis project. The next step is to open my own gallery. The chat was full of comments about how I had my life together, and people started asking if I had any happy prophecies to share. I smiled and shook my head. I don't think there will be many more prophecies. My life is finally on the right track, so I don't think I'll need them anymore. I stood up and gave a small bow to the camera. But I do want to thank all of you. If you hadn't been there to witness everything, the rumors that my family had framed Leo would probably still be circulating online. After the news about Leo's gambling broke, someone started a smear campaign, claiming that the Andersons were framing their innocent adopted son to protect their real son. But the narrative completely flipped within 24 hours. Before Clara even had a chance to call our PR team, my viewers had already started uploading clips from the stream, setting the record straight. The truth was undeniable. The person behind the smear campaign was quickly identified by Clara, and a cease and desist from our lawyers shut him up for good. The chat was full of messages telling me not to thank them, and asking me to stream more often because they enjoyed watching me paint. I smiled and promised I would. Just then, I remembered the other reason I had decided to stream today. I took out my notebook and opened it to a new page. For the past few days, I'd been feeling a dull pain in my abdomen. It was different from last time, but I had a sinking feeling I knew what it was. The tumor was back earlier than before. When the chat saw me take out my notebook, they started asking what was wrong. I didn't answer, just started writing. Today is October 27th. Tomorrow I will go to the hospital for a checkup. The results will show that I have pancreatic cancer. I hope that I will be lucky, and that this time it will be curable. The chat was stunned into silence. I had just said there would be no more prophecies, and now I had written one about something so serious. Seeing their worried messages, I smiled reassuringly. It's okay, guys, don't worry. I'll be fine. Besides, it hasn't happened yet. Maybe this time, my prophecy will be wrong. The chat was flooded with prayers and well wishes. For the first time, I felt a genuine warmth and kindness from the world, and my eyes started to burn. I was about to thank them when my phone rang. It was Chloe. I answered, and heard Chloe's choked voice on the other end. Ethan, you're going to be okay. I'm coming with you to the hospital tomorrow. Took me a second to realize she must have been watching the stream. I smiled, trying to comfort her. It's okay, Chloe. I'll be fine. You have to be fine, she sobbed. I'm coming with you tomorrow. Last time you didn't get treatment, but this time will be different. It has to be. I knew she was crying. A warmth spread through my chest. I said a quick goodbye to the chat, ended the stream, and focused on trying to calm her down. The next day, the test results came back, just as I had predicted. The good news was that it was early stage. The tumor was small and hadn't spread. All they had to do was remove it. Chloe took care of all the arrangements, and then stayed with me at the hospital. With the combined resources of both our families, the surgery was scheduled quickly and went off without a hitch. My recovery was fast, so fast that I was able to attend my graduation ceremony. Clara and my parents were there, taking pictures with me. Our relationship wasn't what it used to be, but things were better. Chloe walked toward me through the crowd, a huge bouquet of flowers in her arms, and all eyes were on us. For a second, I felt like I was watching myself from my past life, standing there, smiling, finally happy. I took the flowers and smiled for the camera. The regrets of my past life had finally been laid to rest. Maybe it was my grandmother's love that had given me this second chance. Or maybe my last life had just been so tragic that even fate had taken pity on me. Whatever the reason, in this moment I was happy.